Welcome back to the channel. I'm Colin and this is a review of the Kiwi Ears Septet IEMs. It's a set of Quadbrid IEMs that retails for $269 that has quite a unique and sophisticated driver combination. The Kiwi Ears Septet features 4 different driver types, 7 drivers, and a 5-way crossover. The Septet also has an open back design, which is not that common in the IEM world. These are quite hard to drive in terms of IEMs due to the low sensitivity rating. I'll list the specs on the screen now if you want to take a look. Let's talk about the unboxing experience. The unboxing experience of the Septet is similar with other Kiwi Ears products. Inside the box, you'll see the IEMs themselves. Under the foam, there's the user manual and a Kiwi Ears zipper case. Inside the case, you'll see the cable with a mini jack pre-installed. The cable comes with an interchangeable plug, so there's also a balance plug. And last, we have the ear tips. There are a total of 2 sets, 6 pairs of ear tips. One set with a wider bore, and the other with a narrower bore. I really like the build of the Septet. It's fully made from metal, aluminum I believe, and the grill or the backplate reminds me of those vintage microphones. The nozzle is metal and seems to be integrated into the shell. Overall, I think these look pretty cool. I really like the matte black look and the vintage vibe it gives. The cable is a big step up from previous Kiwi Ears models I tried. It feels slightly thicker and less rubbery, but it's still very soft. It has a standard 2-pin connector with an interchangeable end plug. My only complaint on these is that the end plug seems too long. I would like to see a more compact plug in the future. Comfort-wise, the Septet is excellent for me. Previously, when I tried the Etude and Aeroso, I just couldn't get them to seal properly with silicone tips with my ears, possibly due to the angle of the nozzle or the shape of the shells. But the Septet didn't have that issue. It just fitted as they should with any silicone tips I use. This brings us to the passive isolation. Initially, I thought the Septet wouldn't have any passive isolation at all due to its open back design, but I was wrong. It's actually pretty decent. In fact, better than some large dynamic driver IEMs I tried. Maybe it's slightly below average when you compare it with other hybrid IEMs. It's completely usable in trains and public transit, and it also doesn't have any driver flex. For the measurements, I would say the Septet has a modified Harman tuning. There's around an 8 dB bass shelf in the sub-bass region. Unlike the Harman target where there's a dip around the 200 Hz region, the mid-bass of the Septet blends into the mid-range in a very linear way, giving you a good quantity of mid-bass. The frequency response stays relatively flat and linear throughout the mid-range, and it rises at the upper mid-range at the 3K Hz region less aggressively than the Harman target. Looking at the driver configuration and the specs, you might assume that the Septet is a super resolving, bright and technical IEM. But that's not quite the case here. In fact, it's pretty much the opposite. The Septet is an exciting IEM that prioritizes on musicality and emotion instead of maximizing clarity and resolution. It has a U-shaped sound tuning with a hint of warmth in it. Let's talk about the bass first. The sub-bass hits nice and deep, but still maintains good clarity and separation. It's because the attack and decay of the sub-bass is really quick. This may possibly be helped by the open back nature of the dynamic driver. For the mid-bass, I think the speed of the mid-bass isn't as quick as the sub-bass, but it gives you a good rumble and thump, which I find quite satisfying for my liking. Personally, I'm a bit of a bass head and I enjoy bass that you can feel and lingers on a bit. For the mid-range, the frequency response of the Septet is really linear as we've previously seen. It doesn't dip in the lower mid-range around the 200 Hz region like other Harman sets. As a result, it also affects how you perceive the mid-range. Male vocals don't sound as recessed as the typical Harman set. Both male and female vocals sound detailed with a sense of added warmth and body to it. Vocals are not as airy and detailed as other technical sets I tried, but it's smooth and organic sounding. For the upper registry of the mid-range, the situation is similar. Female vocals never sounded harsh or sharp to my ears. Instead, it sounds smooth and has a good representation of emotion. Cymbals and other instruments that fall into this range sounds tamed but consists a decent amount of micro details. The lower treble is where the septet starts to get mildly aggressive. I like to use Eminem rap songs to test out the treble, and I sometimes find the treble on the edge of sounding irritating. But on most songs, I don't really find the septet sibilant at all. The slight aggression in the treble region in the septet really boosts the clarity of instruments like the acoustic guitar. I get a good sense of micro details and transients from string instruments, but all in all, I wouldn't consider the septet to be an aggressive sounding IEM in the treble region. The soundstage of the septet does not sound exaggerated. It's not the widest or the deepest out there at the price category, but the positioning and dimensionality feels very natural and well presented. There's good separation between instruments, and instruments feel like they are placed around you as opposed to being spread out in the room or stage. The imaging is really good on the septet, especially for the price. You get a good sense of where the music is coming from. The Ziget Arete and the septet are two IEMs that are priced similarly and measured quite similarly as well, so I think they will make a good comparison. I think the most obvious difference is in the bass. Although the bass region measures almost exactly the same, the Arete hits harder and deeper than the septet. But the septet has more control and texture in the bass. The Arete sounds slightly boomy, but I think it's more satisfying if you are a bass head. Vocals and mid-range also sound slightly brighter on the Arete and has a better sense of clarity. The septet, on the other hand, sounds smoother and fuller. When comparing the two, I would say the Arete sounds more aggressive and exciting, sounding like it has a more V-shaped sound, while the septet sounds more natural and organic. I would say the septet has better width and imaging, and the Arete has better stage depth and is a little more center focused. Then is the Ear Acoustic SPA High-End Max. Comparing the two, the SPA had more impact in kick drums due to the mid-bass boost it has. However, it feels like the mid-bass is bleeding into the vocal slightly. In comparison, the septet has better separation between the mid-bass. Vocals and mid-range of these two do sound similar in tonality, as both of them sound smooth, full-bodied, and warm. The SPA sounds warmer and has more tonal weight than the septet, but the septet has more separation and texture. Instruments and acoustic guitar sound more detailed and airy and natural on the septet. This is an area where the SPA couldn't really match the septet due to its single driver nature. But the SPA has a nice and long decay for instruments if that's what you like to listen for. Soundstage wise, the SPA has a really wide soundstage, wider than the septet, but isn't as good in positioning and dimensionality. The septet has better imaging capabilities. Although the septet is an IEM that I like a lot, there are still cons with any product out there. The first con for the septet is that it isn't the most technical IEM out there around this price range. I've read a couple of reviews saying the septet is a technical monster or detail monster, but personally I don't find that to be the case for me. It's not bad in any way, just not outstanding among the price bracket. Second, it's that the septet is really hard to drive. In fact, I think it's the most difficult IEM to drive among the IEMs I've reviewed so far. So you might want to pay a bit more attention to what you pair with it. I would suggest you pair it with devices that can output upwards of 500 milliwatts at 32 ohms if you're shopping for amps or dongle decks. It's not that it doesn't play with weaker amps, but the more power you throw at it, the more separation you hear, and the more dynamic it sounds. I even use it with the DX340 on high gain, and honestly, I didn't feel it was too much. It didn't sound shrill, It just feels like the more power you throw at it, the more you hear the potential of the Septet unfold. In summary, I think the Septet is a really solid IEM if you can give them enough power. Personally, I like it a lot. From the retro vibe look and all-metal alloy build, to its sound that strikes a good balance between technicality and musicality. Before I tried it, I honestly didn't expect it to sound so balanced and organic. I was expecting the Septet to be a bright, super detailed set of IEMs, but instead, Kiwi Ears made a natural-sounding musical set of IEMs that is fun and non-fatiguing to listen to. So if that's what you're looking for, definitely give these some consideration. So this is the end of my review. Please let me know if you have any questions about the Septet. If you enjoyed this review, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you for watching.